Okay, hi, you join me today with Fred Ashmore, who recently made headlines around the world by beating the Cannonball Run record, which is effectively a time trial race from New York across to Los Angeles. So firstly, thanks for joining us, Fred.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem at all, no problem. Obvious question out of the way first. I mean, it's quite an undertaking to take this race on board. What drove you to do it? Where did the inspiration come from to attack this record?
Well, to attack the record really started within the last year or so. I had some friends that had been talking to me about asking when I was going to go attempt the solo record. And as time kind of wore on and we saw the record that Ed had set in 2019 come down to 27:25, people kind of got after me quite a bit more about doing a solo attempt by my own means, however I'd planned on doing it. And during a gathering we had with the C2C down in Gulf Shores, a bunch of us had talked over the possibility of doing a run in the springtime. However, things happen in life, and I took a job for HGTV, being on one of their TV shows, and then COVID hit and pulled all the permits and basically forced me to go to my home in Oklahoma, and I didn't have a car prepared. So the guys that had planned on going that day went, and I had a lot of free time on my hands. So as the 27:25 record fell to the random guys in the Audi, it kind of like rubbed me a little bit wrong. I felt it was a record that kind of, belonged, belonged in the group. And I talked to Arnie and Doug about them being able to, maybe, take another shot at it, with a little bit less traffic. And not knowing their circumstances, I decided to build my own car. And initially it was going to be a run with my brother. However, as the COVID wore off in my home state, his business picked up. So he was much more busy and he couldn't actually attend the run. So he decided, that he could be a spotter, but I just all of a sudden one day told him I rented a car and I'm building a car to go after the solo record. And, we come up with basically a shoot time that I planned on, going for, which was, 25 and a half hours. I based that on, the guys who had done the 26:38, that I was going to pick a more capable car and I was going to eliminate a lot of their mistakes.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a difficult record to go for anyway. But what made you make it even more difficult by doing the run solo? So you didn't have a team of spotters. You didn't have anyone else to share the driving with. What made you add that extra difficulty to it?
Well, the interesting part is the shorter the time is, the less difficult the solo record is. I know that kind of sounds strange, but obviously you don't have to be up as long. I have always been able to stay up for extended lengths of time. Nothing new. Maybe it shows in my face, bags under my eyes or whatever, but I'm an insomniac. I only get 4 or 5 hours sleep a night. And I've bootlegged and driven for years where I'll sleep 4 hours and drive 20. So, to stay up, the time really wasn't the issue so much as, could I pull it off? Could I get away with it? Could I, outsmart those who are looking for me and, go after the solo record. And realistically, the solo record was a twin campaign of, I just wanted to do the absolute best I could with what I had to work with on a limited budget. And then at the end of the day, say, hey, if somebody beats it, they beat it. Great. I put my best foot forward. And that, that was pretty much it.
And why a Mustang? I mean, it's not the most fuel economical car available. The big 5-litre V8 in there. I realise you filled it all with fuel tanks and such, but I was just looking at it and thinking maybe you could have, if you carry less fuel tanks with a more efficient car, you could have then taken a co-driver, or were you dead set on doing it solo?
I was dead set on pretty much, once my brother backed out, due to some other extenuating circumstances, which I hadn't planned on, really solo was my only option. In the community, sometimes things get misconstrued, and, with more people trying to go after this, I wasn't sure exactly who I could tell and who I couldn't tell. And my brother's always been a confidant. Him and I had set the Cannonball Route record last year. in 2019. The second one's only ever to beat the 1983 record. And so my brother was pretty much, my only confidant through this whole thing, other than the guys that I kind of, palled up with that were going to do my fuel stuff. And the reason I chose the Mustang was it was the only car that was really available that had the seating area, to put the 130-ish gallons of fuel in it, and could still perform, 30 miles an hour better than the Audi. The Mustang's actually, in stock trim is 700 pounds lighter than the Audi. So that in itself, after I take the seats out and take the spare tires in the interior, that in itself accommodates the fuel. And the difference between that is when I'm driving down the road, I'm burning off a whole passenger. So when you have people doing these runs with teams, they have 2 and 3 guys in the car that are there the duration of the run. So by eliminating people and replacing them with fuel, it was kind of just a no-brainer. The Mustang, platform they have now is light years ahead of, a lot of the cars they built in the past. Yeah. I had an 04 Terminator, really liked the car, but this car basically made my Terminator obsolete. Made my Terminator, as cool as it was, it's kind of a dinosaur. And as far as fuel mileage goes, this car did not get what I call terrible fuel mileage. I've driven the car, it's since after the run. I chased the car down after Avis sold it, and I bought it from a dealership. I drove it home from Louisiana and almost got 30 miles a gallon. So the big 5-liter V8 is I understand, probably especially in European terms, doesn't get the best fuel mileage, but it really, for a rental car, it was the best option that fit a solo run. I had considered some Chargers, and I even considered a Hellcat, but the size of the weight and their top speed, other than the Hellcat, based in proportion to their fuel mileage, I just don't think I could have done it on one stop. And like you said about spreading out the stops and stuff, when you do things like this, every time you stop, there's an opportunity for something to go wrong. The pump doesn't turn on, the pump's broken. Your credit cards, declined because you didn't put the no travel restriction on it, or, you have to go in and pay cash and the line's backed up. So I really wanted to eliminate fuel stops because that was the one advantage I thought that I could have over anybody else that had done it.
Fair enough. I mean, yeah, okay, that makes complete sense. Now, the obvious question, which I've seen asked a lot, is it's quite unique to hire the car and then take a hire car. And I've seen pictures of you handing it back at Avis. Have they been in contact? Have they said anything at all? Or you just bought the car off them?
Well, it's funny you say that. I was watching one of the VinWiki videos the other day, and maybe it wasn't a VinWiki video, maybe it was another podcast I had done, and I went to click on the link, and in the sponsor bracket, in the YouTube sponsor bracket, Avis was advertising on my podcast where they were talking about me breaking the record in an Avis rental car.
Oh, wow. So
Avis themselves have not reached out to me, and since I'd done the run, I've actually rented from Avis since. And yeah, so just recently, 2 days ago when I flew up from Atlanta, they denied me a rental, even though I had a reservation. And I laughed about it, and I just kind of walked away. It was the exact place I had rented Kilroy.
Right, okay. So
and I tried. You got to try.
Yeah, fair enough. And you say you've got that car now because you did another time run in it as well, didn't you?
Yes, Actually, when I was finishing up in LA while my brother was spotting me, he was dropping my father off in my home state of Maine to fly to Oklahoma. And I turned right around in California and with no sleep came right straight back, picked my father up in Tulsa, which is 1,400 miles. And then with the day's work, taking the fuel tanks and stuff out of it, we drove to Atlanta and we broke the Bandit Run record in the same week, in the same rental.
And didn't you have a flat tire or something as well?
Yes. On the way back, we had made the turn in Texarkana. The Bandit Run is based on the Smokey and the Bandit movie from the 70s and 80s, where you drive from virtually the Atlanta Motor Speedway to Texarkana, Texas. You get beer and you turn around and you bring it back. as fast as you possibly can. About 368 miles to go, we lost a tire at about 130. And I pulled to a gas station a few miles, limped it to the gas station a few miles down the road. And I changed it out for a dummy donut. And I contacted my brother, kind of let him know what was going on. And he told me what I needed to average in order to break the record. And after about half, 3/4 of an hour of driving the 95 miles an hour on a dummy donut, I'd had enough. I just decided I was going after the record. I didn't, not just after the record, but not just after the record, but I literally wanted to break the 15-hour mark. So.
Excellent. I guess another question, especially one that I've been thinking about, is police. I mean, you have the danger of obviously police pulling you over on the run and looking in the back and seeing all those fuel tanks, and then I imagine being in a fair bit of trouble. But how about afterwards, with all the publicity and everything that's come afterwards? I'm not entirely sure how the traffic laws in the US work in that way. Is there any comeback?
Fortunately for me, I have a home in Oklahoma, which is one of the states that I drove through, but my driver's license is actually tied to the state of Maine, and where there's no way that they can actually track me, or there's no way that they can actually subject me to any penalties. My driver's license in Maine is safe. Maine's not going to extradite somebody over a driver's license infraction. Unless it was a manslaughter or something like that. So with this just being what we consider over here as a minor traffic violation at best, if there was any charges even out there, which there aren't, it's a nil issue. It's a non-factor.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Right, how's the recognition been? Obviously, like I say, you've kind of made a lot of headlines across the internet. How was that? Has it been positive, or have people been kind of negative? Because obviously, you were, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you had your cruise control set at 120, and you were topping the Mustang out at 159, which is some serious speeds there. So I can well imagine there'll be a lot of people who were upset about it, as well as are many people who are impressed with the feat.
Yeah, well, it's been a yin and a yang. For the most part, everybody that sees it, you have three groups. Let's just sort them out. You have the people that are real car guys that really look at it and are like, wow, that's really cool. And I've tried to go on to anybody who's done anything about put any post out there or something about it. I always try to put a little blip on there. Hey, love the comments. Thanks for the share, because I appreciate it, and I appreciate that people like it, and I could give something maybe to brighten their day. And you have those people like yourself who did the piece on it, which I really appreciate. And I really enjoy that. I enjoy reading the comments, good and bad. And then you have the absolute opposite side, that you endangered everybody on the road. You were driving a bomb. You should be drawn and quartered. Firing squad, cut your hands off, give your house to a poor family. Pretty much everything on that end of it. And then you have the people in the middle, which I call the meatloaf eaters in the basement. And they're the people who automatically say, no, couldn't have been done. And these are car guys. They just automatically discount it because they didn't do it. And, so it's kind of like three compartmentalized groups of people. It's either, yes, I like it, no, I don't, or the people in the middle that just doubt it because they're doubters. And, so the publicity for the most part has been really good. I think there's only been one negative article written by some guy who was a sub on Drive Tribe or something. And he kind of was the yang. He kind of, threw a negative connotation on it. But what happens is there's so many people on the positive side of it that it drowns out, the negativity or the people in the middle. And for that, I've been very thankful. There's been a lot of people that, because there's no way I can go answer every comment, and I don't want to answer every comment. I don't want to spend my day battling with people on the internet or arguing about them or trying to prove my self-worth, that have just gone on and say, hey, you just go read the article. You're saying stupid stuff. There wasn't a half a ton of fuel in the car. There wasn't, go look at the facts before you say no. So the publicity has been really good. And honestly, it's really kind of been surreal for me. I didn't think it would gain this much traction or have this much publicity. And a lot of that, is very much thanks to my friend, Benny, we call him Benny Newsman, who, subbed the Road and Track article that kind of really threw it out to the public. And then Ed followed up with a couple of the VinWiki videos that really kind of gave people something to see here rather than the, just the, hey, I said I did this, and, I got a chance to verify it with them, and they get to see, the evidence that it had been done. So it was really those 2 or 3 articles have kind of snowballed into, a lot of other articles. Your article in particular, wow, that was crazy. We came on, and I just happened to stumble across it, and I just, like I said, I just kind of threw a little thing up there about what I'd said back to Avis. And as far as articles, yours, hit it out of the park, hit it out of the state, hit it out of the country. It was absolutely, I think 9,000 something shares at 11,000 subscribers is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's now been seen by 1.6 million people, which is, I mean, it's all your work, but that's crazy. By far my most popular post, definitely. You talked about the negativity. How do you respond to people who say that your record shouldn't count because you did it in coronavirus, during lockdown, and the roads are quieter, and therefore it's not, it's cheating, it's easier. How do you respond to that?
I'm a race car guy. I've raced everything. I've raced on asphalt. I've raced on circle track. I've raced on ice, dirt, drag strips. You name it, I've raced it. And the way I look at it is this: anybody who ever races or ever drives or ever tries to achieve something looks for the biggest advantage they can get to accomplish what they want. And the people that are usually out there, saying something like that are just jealous. It's just jealous of the fact of maybe they wish they thought of it first, or, maybe they covet somebody else's record that had been done at another time, and they don't want that person to lose that grasp on that record. So they feel that, by calling somebody a cheater or, discounting what they did, it rejustifies their feelings about, either it being during the wrong time, or that they didn't do it, or, that they covet somebody else who had the record before. So the negativity to me really doesn't bother me. And when the first few records started coming out with the COVID, I never took a side. I just never did. I wasn't that guy. I'd look at it and, I kind of go, oh, yeah. When the record first happened with the Audi, I was kind of like, man, that's kind of like the WWE champion getting hit over the head with a belt, and the guy stealing the belt and running back to the locker room. So, there's a little bit that I used it as motivation to kind of do more with it. And I always said, let the haters hate. If people are upset about it, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
I've been doing this since 2015, and I've dealt with a lot of the hate there in and out. When I did the C2C Express in 2015 was when I first started seeing, a little bit of the negativity. And as I did better in it or started breaking some records, then people, the negativity started flaring up. So I'm kind of seasoned and used to it.
Yeah, I mean, personally, from the outside, I take a similar viewpoint. I mean, from what I've seen, no 2 runs are the same. I mean, if you wanted to keep it a completely level playing field, you'd have to have everybody in the same car. I mean, a better car comes out next year, better fuel economy. You'd have to leave at the same time to get the same traffic conditions. I know people in the past have used airplanes as spotters. People, yeah, like you say, certainly from the outside, take every advantage that you can. Exactly,
100%.
So what's next? Do you have any plans? Do you have any plans to because you got stuck, didn't you? You got stuck at a checkpoint for 25 minutes. I think that must have been incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, it was 20-ish minutes. I really kind of had to ask my brother about it, because when I was sitting at that checkpoint, that was the only time I started thinking about, what law enforcement or what was going to take place from there. That was really the only time that I was really kind of up in the air. And it was good and it was bad, because that eternity of 25 minutes to me felt like maybe 10, maybe 15, and being able to kind of communicate with my brother back and forth while that was going on, it really helped that. as far as there being anything left, I really think I've kind of put my foot forward as far as I can in this hobby. If somebody went out and broke my record tomorrow, in a solo, would I go after it? Probably not. I just think that, I did what I could do. I put my best foot forward, and if somebody else wants to carry that torch, so be it. So the Transcontinental, I'm not going to say I'm done. There are a couple other runs that might intrigue me a little bit. One we're looking at right now is a little more than Transcontinental, is actually racing around the world, New York to Paris. And so that one is an iron in the fire that a great guy out there, John Ficara, has been put together. It's kind of a budget run around the world, and would like to put that in the resume. More recently, my brother and I started finishing up a Baja 500 1000 truck. I'd like to finish that endeavor that we started on several years ago, get that done and put behind us, or maybe even participate in it regularly. One of the big things has come to mind more recently, and a lot of this stuff that I choose to do is more, I'm not going to say age specific, but age accustomed to a guy like me. I'm 44 years old. I'm not a young god. There's no sponsors coming to say, hey, I want to sponsor Fred Ashmore or anything like that. So when you do this stuff, you really have to look at your financial ability to achieve what you want and do it accordingly. So I'm looking at possibly some land speed stuff. This is kind of something that's just kind of come along a little more recent in the last few weeks. There's a couple of things I think I'd like to do in that venue. And, if I could do that, and we have some land speed racing back in Maine, and I'd like to go to Bonneville at some point. So there's just some I say small irons in the fire, but there's some people that's, major bucket list stuff. But, my daughter's all grown up, and, the world's my oyster, as they'd say.
Yeah, superb. Wow, that certainly sounds exciting. Look, it's been brilliant to talk to you. Thank you very much for your time. I understand that you've done a few of these, and you've had quite a lot of interviews going on. So I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us.
Oh, definitely.
Just remains to wish you best luck for your future endeavors.
Yeah, no problem at all. Anytime you have any questions, feel free to call. And, I'll always keep my phone on and always answer you. So
brilliant. Thank you
thank
very
you
much.
for having me.
Likewise.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.